Hi, this is 365801 and this is another 2023 year in BL review video, and this is the video where I question all of my life choices, and that is of course the I spent how much on BL video. Now this is the 5th annual I spent how much on BL video, which is absolutely incredible to me. I can't believe that I have a 5th annual anything. I said this last year, I'm saying it again. I'm amazed that I've been doing this for as long as I have. And then I'm continuing. I'm usually like a 2 to 3 year focus on something and then move on type person. So I'm very impressed. Congratulations to me. I wanna thank me for being me. I'm very happy that I have this and that I have all of the data from previous years as well. So yeah, if you'd like to go and check out the previous year's videos, they're very entertaining, they're really good, and last year I did a really big job of comparing and contrasting the previous years. So we will of course be utilizing all of that information, and it also helps me to structure this video too. And just like the previous years, I'm going to say I am focusing on my BL only, so that does include any danme or graphic novels, anything that is BL but isn't necessarily like male romance, Achillean romance prose, that kind of thing. So it is a little bit subjective in that respect, but it does need to be because of the way that I've done it previous years. So I need to focus just on the BL so that I don't skew any of the results, which would affect the previous years as well. So yeah, we're just going to focus on BL and we're going to see how much I spent. So let's go through, just as usual, month by month. So if we look at January, in January I had 6 volumes physically, and that came to a total of £32.87, which is not too bad. But then I did have some digital expenditure. I had 6 digital titles that I got through Amazon, and I also got some coins from Leshin, which took my total up to £63.05, which is almost double. If we move along to February, we can see that in February I picked up 16 volumes of physical BL manga, and the total was £122.04. I didn't pick up any digital or have any digital expenditure, so my total for February is £122.04. That's a lot more than I really wanted to be spending. But it was for 16 physical volumes, so that's not too bad. Now we can move along to March, and in March I picked up even more, and that was 19 physical volumes of manga, and that was £98.76. So that's a really good ratio. But I also picked up a digital title, and so my grand total for March was £100.42. Now in April I also picked up 16 physical volumes. I did put Koi Monogatari into May, but originally I had purchased it in April, so I just put it in here. And the physical cost was £130.83, so more expensive than February for the same number. And I also had 2 digital titles, and so my total expenditure for April was £135.21. You can see where I'm going with this, and you can already guess what kind of a year I've had. Now we move on to May, and May is actually my birthday month, but I was actually quite good about how much I was purchasing. Not as good as January though. And I got 11 physical volumes in May, and my total for that was £60.71. Some of that was with vouchers and things like that. And I had 1 digital title added on, so my total for May is £62.29, which is shockingly the cheapest month so far this year. And even less than January, considering I got 11 volumes compared to the 6 in January. Now, if we move along to June, this is where I actually spent a lot of my vouchers and gift cards and things like that from my birthday month. And I picked up 21 physical volumes of BL manga. Not on the screen is Fence Volume 5, which I did pick up. I just forgot to film it. And that was £123.19. But I also bought some coins on lesson, and my total was £131.06. But 21 physical is the most for 1 month so far. Now, when we move along to July, I picked up 18 physical titles, and they were £99.65 in total. But then I had 4 digital titles to add, and that takes my total up for July to £105.93. August is another nice month because there's only 5 physical volumes, and I picked them up for £28.43, which is great. I also picked up one digital title, and that takes my total for the month of August to £30.42, which I'm super pleased about. What a great month. If we move on to September, I picked up 13 physical volumes, and that total was £81.38. I also picked up very few lesson coins, and that takes my total up to, for the month of September, £83.78. Now, if we move on to October, October is the absolute best month. I only picked up 4 physical volumes of manga. In that respect, it came to £25.03, which is a really great price for these 4 volumes. But I also picked up some lesson coins, and I got a renewal of my Manga Planet / Futekia subscription, but I got it on a more better than half price type sale, so it was only £20.76 for the 12-month subscription, and that takes my total for October up to £48.26. So it's no longer the cheapest month. It is pretty low, but still £48.26 for October. Now that just leaves the last 2 months, and as you can see, we've got November's. November's is horrendous. I have 27 physical volumes of manga. I had to count several times just to be sure. But actually, in terms of the 27 equaling the physical cost, it was £121.17. So pretty good, actually, in terms of the price to number ratio. And I also picked up a few lesson coins, and so my grand total for November is actually £126.01, which is not the most expensive month, even though it seems like it's the biggest in terms of the number of physical titles. And then we can move on to December, and a bit more of a chill month. I was trying not to spend money. I picked up 7 physical volumes. One of them I had pre-ordered back in June, and that was Heartstopper Volume 5. It took a while to actually get to me, and the total for my physical volumes was £30.59. I also picked up a few lesson coins, and so my total was £32.95 for December. Now it's the time to go through the 2023 spending overview. We have a look at it month by month, and as you can see, there were fewer months that didn't have less than £50 spent, and in fact I didn't spend less than £50 for the first half of the year, and the majority of them, in fact 6 out of the 12, I spent over £100. And that just doesn't really bode well for anywhere near the amount that I spent last year. So we already know that's not going to happen if 6 out of 12 I've spent over £100. So it is time to see what is the total for 2023 of my spending on BL. And the amount is, drumroll please, £1,041.42, which is, of course, a lot more than last year. It's actually quite a bit more. And if we look at it in dollars, because I know that a lot of people watching are in America, so this would be American dollars, it's £1,304.35. Now, the best thing to do for me anyway is, because I have previous 4 years worth of data, compare and contrast the previous years. So let's have a look at previous year's expenditure on BL. And in 2019, it was 1,300. In 2020, it was 1,200. In 2021, it was just shy of 1,100. And then last year, 2022, is kind of an anomaly, and it was only 700, just over 700. So 2023's expenditure is more on a par with 2021. It's comparable with 2021. It's just around £50 less, but it is closer to the 1,000 mark than it is the 1,100. So I'm going to say that it's still, I'm going to say it's around £1,000, which is kind of like, if we take 2022 away, kind of just like £100 less each year. I'm just going to tell myself that. I'm going to tell myself that. But then what did I actually get for that amount of money? And that's quite interesting as well. So for the total of volumes in print, these are print volumes that I got for 2023, it is 163 volumes. Now I also picked up some digital, and I got 15 digital volumes. Now, if we put those two together, that means for the total cost, £1,041.42, I picked up 178 volumes, along with some lesson coins and other digital expenditure, and a Fatikia Manga Planet subscription. However, when I compare and contrast previous years, I didn't take that into account, and I just took into account the physical volumes that I took. So I'm just going to be looking at the 163 volumes of print manga that I picked up. Now, it's also really interesting to compare and contrast previous years to see how many volumes I picked up for the amount spent. And so we can take a look at that information as well. In 2019, I picked up 172. And then with £100 less in 2020, I picked up 179 volumes. And in 2021, it was a significant drop down, even though it was only around £100 less, to 118 volumes. And then in 2022, I only picked up 91 volumes of physical print manga. But as you can see, in 2023, I picked up 163 volumes. Now, the amount of money, if you remember, is more comparable to 2021's. So it was just shy of 1,100, and I only got 118 volumes. But just over the £1,000 mark, and I got 163 volumes, which is more comparable to 2019's amount, which was 1,300. So that's a really amazing statistic in terms of how many I got for the amount of money I spent, which is always my plan, to get as much manga as I can for the amount of money I'm spending. But also it bodes really well for the average price of a volume. Now, once again, before we go on to averages, it's good to celebrate the achievements that my collecting has produced in 2023. And the first is that once again, for the third year in a row, I have completed 2 out of print publishers. That is absolutely amazing. I'm so proud that I've been able to collect another 2 publishers to completion. And the fact that this is third time in a row each year for the past 3 years that I have completed 2 publishers. So I have 6 completed publishers in my collection. Now, if I also add on what I collected over the year into my manga collection, that makes my manga total 1,430 plus BL manga collection. Now, the plus means I don't actually know because I have not been inputting all of my manga into my spreadsheet. That has to be done. I'm probably going to make a video out of it because other people's video collections of how they organize their collection and how they put things into a spreadsheet or how they keep track of things is really interesting to me, so maybe you'll find that interesting as well. If you'd like a video like that, let me know down in the comments below and I'll see how long it takes me to get that done. But yeah, it's an amazing amount, and I think by the end of this year, 2024, I will have 1,500. I think that's a very distinct possibility. Now, if we start looking at some more statistics, such as the average cost of a volume, it's always good to look at the previous years as well and compare and contrast. I have the data, I may as well, and I think this one is particularly sweet. This is like the absolute best statistic for 2023. So the average cost of one volume in 2019 was £7.62. In 2020, it was £6.81, so it reduced. In 2021, it went back up again, which is unsurprising, at £7.63, and then it dropped again in 2022, which was really great, down to £6.87. Now, here we go, 2023. What is that I see? £5.86. What? And I think that really shows how the amount I spent was comparable in 2021, but the amount of manga I picked up was comparable to 2019. And that meant that the amount I was spending per volume had to be lower. It had to be. So I'm incredibly surprised that it's £5.86 as an average per volume. That is really, really good, because there was a couple of things that were expensive, but I have always tried to get the absolute bargain, and I think I've bought more because they were bargains, so I've added to my collection at a price that was pretty good. So I'm really, really happy at the average price. This is like the best success, I think, for 2023, is my average price is so much lower than previous years. So let's have a look at the most expensive volume that I picked up. And it is no surprise, really. Oh, well, it might be a surprise. The most expensive volume is Incubus Volume 3. And I splurged, and paid £33.14. I actually spent whatever it was, 40 something dollars. But it was £33.14 in UK pound. So the reason this is so expensive is because it was purchased from America, and so the majority of this is, or half at least, is shipping. And that's because it's very difficult to get a volume 3 of Incubus outside of North America. Even from Europe, I think it would be quite tricky. So certainly in the UK, it would be very, very difficult. And that's the same as the previous year as well, when I had to get something from abroad. And it does mean that the cost of shipping is added on, and it does make it more expensive. This is by far and away the most expensive. I think the next most expensive thing is probably the Pole Clan, which I got from Amazon at like £18. So that's a huge big hardback book. So it's a very big difference, the fact that this is coming from America. But the reason it is so expensive is because it's rare, and the reason I was willing to pay this is because it completed my collection from Kitty Media. And I have been on the lookout for this particular volume, I think since early 2020, when I picked up I think it was Incubus Volume 2, and then I only needed one more volume to complete my Kitty Media collection and get this publisher, out of print, completed, collected, all of the different Kitty Media titles done, and I needed this one volume. So I was willing to spend a bit more. Was it worth it? No. in terms of the reading experience, but was it worth it in terms of the collecting experience? And they're very different things. Yes, I don't mind spending £33 on a volume of manga that I did not enjoy the reading experience for, and I don't think is actually physically worth it. But it feels worth it to me to be able to say I have every Kitty Media volume now, and it makes me feel good about that. Other than that, I don't think it's worth £33. But it does make me feel good about completing that collection, and something that I've been on the lookout for years now. I feel good about it in that respect. So yeah, let's move on to something that makes me feel really good, which is the least expensive. And it's really interesting because technically the least expensive things cost me absolutely nothing. I have Titan's Bride Volume 2 and Black or White Volume 2. And these are both going down in my collection as having cost me nothing. Titan's Bride Volume 2, technically I purchased from Book Depository for £8.21. And it took a long time to come and it just wasn't coming. And the rest of my order was delivered, but this particular volume just did not come. So I contacted the company and they said, give it a couple weeks and then contact us again. And I gave it a couple weeks, and on the date that they said, contact us if it hasn't arrived by then. So I contacted them and they said, we're really sorry, we'll refund you. And so they refunded me, and then it arrived. And I did contact them and say it has actually arrived now, and they said that's fine, just keep it. So I feel really bad because Book Depository were going out of business anyway, so I kind of feel like I scammed them, but at the same time it took weeks for this to finally arrive after ordering it. So I'm happy to have it in my collection, and technically it didn't cost me anything because they gave me my money back. This was the second time, or maybe even third time that's happened. The last time I remember it was Kiss All the Boys Volume 1, and that was coming from America. It was only £5, whereas this one's £8, so I kind of feel a little bit worse about it. Black or White Volume 2, however, I don't feel bad at all about, and that's because I bought it from World of Books, and they were doing their 4 for 3 on titles under £5, and if you purchased the 4, put them into your cart, you would only be charged for 3, and the least expensive one you'd get for free. So you'd be getting 4 volumes for less than £15, which is a really great deal if you can find 4 volumes that you really want in your collection that you don't already own, which is always my issue. And I was able to pick that one up. So technically Black or White Volume 2 was the free one. I could have divided up the other 3 to be able to give this some sort of cost, but in the end, when it came to doing this, it actually was just a little bit easier to just put it down as a 0 and avoid having to write Infernal Devices down as my cheapest ones, because technically if I say how much money I paid, the 3 volumes were 40p each, so it was £1.20 for the 3 volumes set, and I got them from a charity shop. And the next most expensive one was also a charity shop by £2 for Candy Colour Paradox Volume 1, which I already own, which is a duplicate. So I'm putting these ones down. The least expensive was a little bit more tricky to find, because lots of different ones had different reasonings. But yeah, I think Titan's Bride Volume 2 or Black or White Volume 2 is my least expensive at 0. Now, before I decide whether or not 2023 was a success or not, I think it's a good idea to look at the goals that I set at the end of the previous year's video. And I did set myself some achievable and yet at the same time fairly lofty goals. Now, the first thing was to try and limit my volumes to 7 per month, and that's not a terrible goal to have. It's something I've had for the past couple of years now in terms of how many I would like to be able to pick up in a month or how many are being released per month. A few years ago, 7 would have seemed like a pretty good goal because there weren't that many publishers releasing BL, and a lot more over the last 2-3 years have come into the market and started releasing on a regular basis, on a fairly regular basis, and so the amount released per month has increased. But a couple of years ago, 7 seemed like that was a very doable amount if you consider that Sublime would release maybe 1 or 2 per month, and maybe you'd have a Kodansha one or a Tokyopop one here and there. Yeah, so 7 seemed like a good amount. I'm still going to stick with it. I've obviously not stuck with it this year. That would make a total of 84 volumes in the year, and that's obviously not what I was able to pick up. I got almost double 84, so I have very much not picked up that total amount. The other limit was a £50 spend limit per month, and I have gone over that more than not. More often than not, it was over the £50 mark, and that meant my spend limit of 600 is very much a failure in that respect. I have not been able to stick to last year's amount or go for the £600, and that was me upping my spend limit. Every year I would try and aim for 200 to 300, and last year I decided, let's be more realistic. You're going to want to spend money, it's going to make you feel good. You're going to do your shopping instead of therapy, so let's just do it. And I didn't manage to stick to my spend limit of 600. Now, what I did get, though, was 163 volumes, which, as I said, is almost double the amount that I was planning on getting. And I did spend 1,041, which is about £400 more. But if you think about that, it's not quite double the amount of money, because it would have been 1,200. And so in that respect, when I did my calculations of £7 or £6.99 per 7 volumes of 48, 49, £50, and therefore I would be able to, in theory, pick up 84 volumes for £600. I was able to pick up double for 1,000. So that's pretty good, right? And that's mainly because the average price is lower than the £6.99, is actually closer to £5.99. It's even less than that. So I think it's because I was able to pick up so many bargains that the number is much higher. It's really hard to say no to picking up a bargain when it's less than the amount that you're budgeting for, and then therefore you can pick up more in your budget, which is why I went over budget. Now, also I wanted to spend less than £50, and that only happened in 3 months out of 12. So for 1/4 of the year I was within my budget, and the rest of the time I was definitely not. And in fact, my average is around £80 a month. When I calculate it all and divide it up, it's about £80, and that's significantly more than I would want to spend every month on manga. I know it's really easy to, but that's something that I'm going to have to try and rein in a little bit more in 2024. So in terms of my goals for next year, I would like to try and see if I can just carry on with the same lofty goals of 7 volumes a month and a £600 spend limit. As you may have noticed if you've watched my manga haul video for January, that is not the case. And I completely destroyed that instantly. So I'm going to have to be really, really strict with myself for the rest of 2024, because I have already gone over a spend limit and an amount limit as well. So yeah, the reason being that they were so cheap and so reasonably priced. And that's the thing, if I say in my head that I'm limiting myself to a £7 spend limit, and then I see all of these volumes that with this deal or with this discount code they're going to be £5 and something, then I'm going to be tempted to purchase them, and that's a really dangerous thing. So yeah, I'm putting my limits back up. I'm going to say, here, this is what you're aiming for, and you're going to aim for it, and I'm going to try and be more mindful, because I think that's what happened in 2023. I just became less mindful than I was in 2022, and that's why I ended up buying a lot of things. I also found amazing bargains, and it's really, really hard to say no to purchasing something you know you're going to buy eventually and try and put in your collection eventually, and here it is at £2 or £3 less than what you might be willing to pay for it in the future. So yeah, I need to look at that as a personal goal. So I hope that you have found this interesting. As I said, I have been doing this for a few years now. This is just the way that I do it. I try to make sure that I'm keeping mindful about my spend and my budgets, and also that I'm getting good value for the money that I'm putting into my collection. And as I've said, this is just the way that I do it and that I have been doing it for the past now 5 years. This is no reflection on you or your spending habits or your choices. This is just for me. This is just the way that I do it, so that I am keeping on top of things, and maybe just give myself a wee kick up the bum every year. And I think last year was such a success that I had forgotten what it felt like to kind of be kicked down again. Got too big for my boots. I feel like I definitely have been had a wee slap on the wrist there, like chastised. I feel chastised again. So I'm back to feeling how I usually I do at this point in time, and feeling like I overspent, and that I need to make more of an effort. It is the start of the year and I have already failed. So yes, it doesn't feel good. But at the same time, I really love my collection. So yeah, this is the only thing that I do that makes me feel like this. Everything else is great about my collection, but I also feel like it's really important that I do this for myself. So yeah, if you feel bad or this is not the kind of thing that you like, just click off. That's fine. But if you have watched to the end, thank you so much, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on budgeting and what you've spent on things. And do you purchase things as soon as they come out? Do you pre-order? All of those kinds of stuff. How much do you spend a month? You know, these kinds of things I find really interesting. I know that last year a few people started doing read what you own, and that's quite a good thing to do as well. So yeah, I will be having a few more videos coming up. This is just the first in a little mini series within my 2023 year in BL series. So look out for those videos if you'd like to. Click on the subscribe button so you can get notified when those videos go up. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, if you budget as well and how you do this. It might give me some pointers for the years ahead. Once again, thanks for watching to the end of this video. Take care, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!